Hey everybody, it's Derek from Directions, and in today's video we're going to be talking about this particular device and how its most recent patch just changed the gaming layout for the Sony PlayStation. So it's been about 2 years since the PlayStation Portal was released back in November 13th of 2023, and boy can I tell you that it's been a bumpy ride for the PlayStation Portal. During its release in 2023, the PlayStation Portal served exclusively as what they call a remote player. So basically what that means is you would only be able to play games on your PlayStation Portal if you had some type of remote connection to your already owned PS5. Which means you needed 3 things in order to play games on your PlayStation Portal. Number 1 being a PlayStation 5, number 2, a steady internet connection, and number 3, the Portal itself. As Sony continued to optimize and add features to the PlayStation Portal, in early 2025, the PlayStation Portal was allowed to expand its capabilities and its features from not just being a remote player for the games on your PlayStation 5, but now with the PlayStation Plus Premium subscription, you were actually able to play the PlayStation Premium's library of games over the cloud, meaning you didn't even necessarily have to have a PlayStation 5. This earlier update kind of gave the PlayStation Portal its own kind of path to walk, because with that earlier update, you no longer actually needed to have a PlayStation 5, meaning that this particular PlayStation Portal was technically a standalone device because all you needed was your PlayStation Portal and an internet connection. And with the 2 of those, you were able to play a massive amount of PlayStation games via the cloud. Now let's skip forward to the month of November 2025, basically the 2-year anniversary for the PlayStation Portal, and let's say that this most recent patch, patch 6.0, is a true game changer for the PlayStation Portal, because the PlayStation Portal is kind of gaining its own independence from the PlayStation 5 and kind of becoming its own standalone device. And I say that loosely, but basically with patch 6.0, you don't really need to have a PlayStation 5 to play your PlayStation library anymore. If you purchase digital games from the PlayStation Network and they're sitting in your PlayStation library, you can now play those digital games on your PlayStation Portal, and again, you don't even need your PlayStation 5 in order to play those games. And that's the magnificent part about patch 6.0 for the PlayStation Portal. So all you have to do in order to receive this update or this patch 6.0 with your PlayStation Portal is pretty much turn it on. And then once you turn it on, you're automatically going to receive an update. And once that update goes through, you're then going to be greeted by somewhat of a new graphical user interface. So during kind of like the connection phase where your PlayStation Portal is still connecting to the internet, you're actually going to see a little bit of new iconography as well as similar iconography at the top left-hand corner of kind of like the login page. You'll see the PlayStation 5 icon, and that's going to be the old way of how we would actually connect our PlayStation Portal to do that remote play that the PlayStation Portal was initially set and designed to be. But with this new icon, you're actually going to see this new kind of graphical user interface. This new user interface is actually going to allow for you and me, us gamers, to really maximize the PlayStation Portal, because it's going to allow for us to, 1, play a massive library of PlayStation Network games via the cloud, and 2, with patch 6.0, it's going to allow you to play games within your library. So you are going to still be streaming games, but you're now able to play games that are outside of the PlayStation Network library and play the games that you've already purchased. This is fantastic news, because no longer are we limited to just playing the games on the PlayStation Network. Now we're actually able to play games that we purchased that aren't on the PlayStation Network. Let's say you just purchased Astrobot or Arc Raiders or Expedition 33 or Precinct. Those games are not yet on the PlayStation Network, but you did purchase them and you can play them remotely or streaming via the PlayStation Portal. So when I say the PlayStation Portal has become kind of its own standalone device, I say that very, very loosely, because of the fact that the PlayStation Portal still doesn't have a built-in hard drive, at least not a large one. It has its own proprietary kind of processor and software, but I want to emphasize and fully disclose that it's not like any other handheld mobile gaming device on the market, because because it requires streaming in order for you to play your stuff. It's not like your Legion Go or your Asus ROG Ally. It literally is going to be a digital streaming handheld device. And some people are going to love that and some people are going to hate that. But honestly, I feel like this is how the PlayStation Portal should have released back in 2023. I am very happy that Sony didn't give up on the PlayStation Portal because, like I said earlier, it had a really rough start. I mean, there were connection issues, there were streaming and lag issues. And honestly, after 2 years, after just kind of monitoring the PlayStation Portal and how it's kind of implemented new changes, new features, new graphical interfaces, it's pretty phenomenal. All right, so let's go ahead and jump to a different angle and let's see what's different with the PlayStation Portal's kind of graphical user interface. And more importantly, let's look at the performance of playing some of the games. Okay, so now we're turning on the PlayStation Portal, and I've already updated my PlayStation Portal so that way I could test out this new feature from patch 6.0. But ultimately, once it's logged in, you can then see that we're going to be prompted to press our PlayStation button. So let's go and press the PlayStation button over here. And then once we press the PlayStation button, you can then hear some of the audio. Okay, so now that the PlayStation Portal is now booted up, you can look at the top left-hand corner, and at the top left-hand corner is going to be where this new iconography is going to be. You can see that it says connect to DGL PS5. That's going to be my PlayStation 5 and also the old way in which we would do the remote connect. But then if you press R1 on the right-hand side of this PlayStation Portal, you then go to the middle icon. This is going to be where the meat and potatoes is going to be for PlayStation Portal's 6.0 patch. And the last icon at the top left-hand corner is then going to be the magnifying glass icon. This is going to be the feature that allows you to search for specific games within the streaming library. And through this magnifying area, you're able to search in for keywords. You can see there I typed in Ghost of, and then here you're actually able to see that it brings up anything that has the keywords of Ghost of. So Ghost of Yotei, Ghost of Tsushima, you kind of get it from there. And then below that, you're able to go ahead and look at other games that you can play with PlayStation Plus. Basically, if you see any of the games that have that kind of yellow iconic PlayStation Plus streaming icon, that is going to allow for you to play that game remotely and through streaming through the cloud. It is important to note that not every game is going to be available to stream, but a lot of the popular and newer games are actually able to be streamed through this new patch. So now let's go and press L1 and let's go ahead and navigate over to the middle icon as I had mentioned earlier. And this is going to, like I said, be the bread and butter because this is going to be where you're streaming the games from your library, meaning that some of these games are games that are not offered within the streaming library from PlayStation Plus Network because these games are actually coming from your actual digital library on your PlayStation 5 or your Sony accounts. You can see at the top row here are going to be games that I recently played through the cloud streaming services. Obviously, Helldivers 2 is going to be number 1, and then we have Expedition 33, Alan Wake, and then the new and most popular game, which is going to be Arc Raiders. Below that, you can actually see at the bottom right-hand corner is going to be the streaming library. This is going to be the streaming library that we are already used to prior to the patch, but then this bottom left-hand corner is actually going to be your actual PlayStation library. So as I selected that, you can actually see that these are the games that are in my PlayStation library. A lot of these games are going to be games that you can stream through the PlayStation library, but it's just better with the fact that you could play these games through your library because now you don't need a PlayStation 5 in order to do so. You simply just have to have the game in your digital library. Before we actually get into the gaming and the performance of those games, if you press on the PlayStation button now, from the home screen, you now are actually going to be greeted with a new panel on the right-hand side. And this is so much more simpler than the kind of weird, funky, janky slide gestures that were on the PlayStation Portal before. Now, just by selecting the PlayStation button, you're now able to connect to your PS5 and or disconnect. You're able to adjust the brightness. You're able to then connect or disconnect from any of the PlayStation exclusive kind of peripherals like the headset. and then you're able to jump right into the settings. I do want to mention that if you turned on your PlayStation Portal and didn't automatically receive the update, you would just have to go into the settings and then check for the system updates through the system area and then go to the system software, and that's going to be how you manually trigger for this patch 6.0 to go push through. Now let's go ahead and stream some games through my digital library so we can see how it performs. We're going to start off with Expedition 33, and let's go ahead and press the X button there. And once we press that X button, you're going to see it kind of do its loading. I do want to mention that if you expect to play any games on your PlayStation Portal, that you probably want to invest into having a really good home internet system and or be close to your hotspot whenever you're out and about. Let's go ahead and turn up the volume a little bit. I'd have to say that for this little device, the sound sounds really good.
Look, there's a door inside.
Seems empty. Let's go.
Alright, now that you all got to witness me getting slaughtered by some NPCs and Arc Raiders, let's go ahead and try out another live service game like Helldivers 2. And let's try out another game that's not on the PlayStation library, such as Black Myth Wukong. Alright, so at the end of the day, I think that the PlayStation Portal and the 6.0 patch is just fantastic. I can't honestly tell you how excited I am to not have to have my PlayStation 5 turned on or in power saving mode, so that way I can connect my PlayStation Portal and play some games. I like the fact that I have 3 different options of how I could play games on my PlayStation Portal. I could do the remote streaming, which was the original kind of intent, and then I have the ability to do kind of the cloud beta. This is the section where you're able to play the PlayStation kind of library, and then the newest edition where I'm able to play my games, my library, and I can all do that without even having to have my PlayStation 5 on. Now there are some caveats still, because the PlayStation Portal only has a 1080p resolution on its 8-inch display, and then also you're only able to get 60 Hz refresh rate for some of your games, and so all of that is just kind of limited to kind of how good or bad your internet is. If you have really blazing fast fiber internet where everything is just really great, then you'll probably really love this. If you have crappy, shoddy internet like I do here in Seattle, then it's kind of hit or miss. I do notice that there is a little bit of input lag, and I do notice that there is a little bit of jumping and stuttering every now and then, but I do also want to say that when I am actually playing my games through my library, the performance and the quality of the game is actually better as I'm playing it from my library over the cloud versus if I was going to be doing remote streaming. And I don't know why that is. It just works better when I'm actually playing my library. So I did have a lot of fun testing this out. Now the question of the day is, do I recommend you buying a PlayStation Portal because of this 6.0 update? I think so, but there is a big but there, because it's still running off of the internet. So like I said, if you are going to be using your internet and you have like the worst service in the world, kind of like I do, you are going to have kind of mediocre performance. I actually did use my phone's hotspot on my Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7 to connect to my actual PlayStation Portal, and it still ran fine. And I am using T-Mobile here in Seattle, and I feel like T-Mobile's bandwidth and their kind of internet service is really, really good. I can't attest for AT&T or Verizon or any other hotspot out there. You will be able to play your PlayStation library on your PlayStation Portal as long as you, again, kind of manage your expectations. This is not going to be the same as if you're going to be playing a game on your actual PlayStation 5, because it is still streaming. If you want the best performance, you definitely want to make sure you're playing on the actual console itself. Now, in terms of games in your actual library, you can't actually purchase games on the PlayStation Portal. You can go to the PlayStation Store, but ultimately it's going to lead you over to a QR code, which then you would have purchased through the PlayStation app. I mean, that's cool, I guess, because of the fact that it doesn't actually add that many steps. And when you do purchase it, it's just right there in your library. So you get to stream it as soon as you purchase it. You don't have to worry about any downloading or installing or anything like that, because it's all in the cloud. Now, to make the honeypot a little bit sweeter is the fact that the PlayStation Portal is readily available in stock at major retailers as well as Amazon, you know, the kind of just everywhere. But you can actually find the PlayStation Portal on like Facebook Market and kind of those secondhand areas like Mercari, eBay, other places. And so that means you don't have to get a PlayStation Portal full price, because I think I've actually seen on Facebook Market where people are selling their PlayStation Portals for like $125. That is a steal with all of the functions and features and capabilities that the PlayStation Portal is capable of doing now. Now, one thing I do want to disclose and make sure that you're fully aware of is the fact that you do need to pay a PlayStation Plus premium top tier account. And so I think that's like $19.99 USD in the United States. And honestly, with like the kind of independence of having to be tethered to the PlayStation 5, you get to play all of your games through the cloud and stream it and typically have really good performance. I think that's kind of a no-brainer. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and get back to gaming. Let me know in the comments what you think, because honestly, I think this is a no-brainer. If Sony is making baby steps towards another portable device like the PlayStation Vita, the PlayStation Portal, I'm all for it, Sony. So keep on keeping on. And then for all of you who are watching, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you all in the next one.